People with ADHD often have to deal with stigmas and misconceptions about the disorder. It's an issue that's close to the heart for my friend, NBC's Gadi Schwartz, who's opened up about his experience on his Peacock show, The Overview.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. It usually brings to mind kids that are being super hyper or sitting frozen and spacing out. Impulses that can seem contradictory, but can often happen at the same time. And that's kind of what it feels like inside my head, because I've lived with ADHD my whole life. For me, here's what it looks like. Random things in different places every day, forgetting things in weird spots. I'll start researching something for work, and 50 tabs later, I'm reading about how magic is used in LARPing.
It's not that we can't pay attention, it's that we can't regulate our attention. We don't really have the ability to choose what we pay attention to.
So why is it that I can get sucked into a rabbit hole right in the middle of doing something else?
Gadi joins us now. Gadi, good morning. I have to say, first of all, I loved that piece, that little snippet, and the whole piece for so many reasons. One of them being knowing you very well as one of my best friends. You explained really how you are a lot of the time very, very well. I've seen it firsthand, but I think it's so important that you actually said, look, I struggle with this. That's got to be just so helpful to somebody else who's struggling with it to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to hear from you, too. Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, I wanted to thank you, too, for opening up about anxiety in a way that you did. We've been friends for a really long time. I know that we've talked about a lot of this stuff personally, but there were a lot of things in there that I had no idea about. And it was so helpful to hear about them from you. I got to ask, how did you feel talking about it?
Oh, thanks, Gadi. You know, it was cool for me because I did share, I guess, more than I really ever have on it. I think, you know, I'm quite open about the fact that I have anxiety, but I went a little bit more in depth into how extreme it was when I was younger, how early it started, and, you know, how I've sort of gotten over it, but also some of the positive things that can come from it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. Even last week when I just got a little chance to preview it, some people reached out and said, you know, thanks for talking about this, which is what I think was really cool, too, to see in yours, just the fact that you're putting a face on somebody who's obviously doing okay, has a wonderful job, has a family, is doing great, but you struggle with this.
Yeah, that's right. Same for me. And it's always been kind of nerve-wracking to go out there. It was nice to do that with both of us. So, again, thanks for that. But I've always been nervous to share that diagnosis because of a lot of the stigmas and the misconceptions that people have when it comes to ADHD, like that it's just a disorder that affects little kids, or it's just little boys being really hyper. And what I think people don't realize is that ADHD is a neurological condition that causes some brains, and we're talking about 4% of kids, we're talking about 4% of adults, up to 11% of kids to have problems with processing dopamine. And all of that causes this inability to regulate attention. So, for example, when you hear ADHD and you think of those kids that are either hyper or they're spacing out, that sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. It's our brain struggling to control where that attention goes. So really what it feels like is kind of like you're trying to watch 6 different televisions all at once and you're trying to pay attention, but somebody else has a remote and they keep changing the channel, or like being lost in a forest where you keep trying to see the path, but you keep losing it and there's a bunch of different distractions. And then finally, when you lock onto that path, you go into this tunnel vision, and that's because of our weird relationship with dopamine. It takes us a lot of dopamine to feel what normal people feel on a daily basis. So that's why it's such a struggle, but that's also why journalism has been kind of a godsend for me, because, you know, we're talking right now, I'm in that hyper focus because I'm nervous about talking in front of a bunch of different people. There's these deadline pressures, there's chaos, and so there are a lot of professions where ADHD is a perfect fit, but it's really about finding what works for you. And there's so many people right now that are struggling with this pandemic because this pandemic is the absolute unnatural state of people with ADHD.
And Gadi, just even hearing you share there, again, it's just, I mean, I don't even know. How many hours do you think we've spent on the phone privately talking about these two issues between the two of us? We've shared so much of it with each other, but I just remember you saying to me before, like, I'm nervous before I go live. And I'm like, there is just no way. But just hearing you describe it and share that, I honestly just think it makes a big difference. So, Gadi, great piece. Everybody go watch this on The Overview. Thank you, Gadi. It's always great to have you on the show, my friend.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.